All right, welcome back. So you want to learn how to build a better mousetrap. Well, listen, I wish I could say that I was going to get this done in one video, but I suspect we're going to be at least two, especially if I get rolling on. And I can't guarantee I won't do that. But before we get to building the mousetrap, I'm going to have to show you what are bad ideas to begin with. So we're going to have to do probably this first video, not even actually building the mousetrap, but showing you how bad mousetraps are built. But just before I do that, talk about tangent upon tangent. Looking at here an image, a plot that I had shown in the previous video, so my histogram. You'll notice I had mentioned that our algo really caught the downside moves. And don't worry about the upside moves where they were the red dots. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and watch those two videos. But I said, listen, those were the days that we got out. So we didn't take that full hit, but that was the signal for the algo to get out of those very profitable trades when we were short. In that case, the one I was showing you, this case here is the S&P index. And I just wanted to bring up, after I was reviewing that video, look at how much we've got outside of the normal bell curve here on the downside versus the long side. So even on this, I didn't really notice this before. I noticed the statistic, and I knew it worked, but I never related that to this drilled in detail on the short side versus the long side, where in the fat tails. I was reviewing that video and I went, hey, shit, look at that. That literally proved out what we were seeing in that other video and in the results that we were looking for. So yeah, I just thought I would throw this in here. It really did do a good job of catching a lot of these downside trades. Now, I will throw one more thing in here. You will get some algorithmic purists out there that will say whatever parameters you're supposed to be using to be long, you're supposed to use the same parameters to be short. I completely disagree with that. Now they're saying if you're not doing that you're data snooping or you're biased in some other way. I completely disagree with that. Now listen, everything we do is a certain amount of data snooping anyway. But why I completely disagree with that, where I think they're completely wrong, is the very simple fact that the equity market moves up in a different manner than it moves down. And now I think everybody, including these guys that are, tell you use the same parameters on the upside as the downside, I think they would have to bend to that piece of fact right there. The market does not move down in the same manner that it moves up. So feel free to do a certain amount of parameter optimization without excessive data snooping. And don't worry, we'll get into indications that you're doing excessive data snooping soon enough. But feel free to do that because it's simply reflective of how the markets actually do operate in the real world. You hear they go up, the markets take the stairs up or the escalator up and the window down. And that's exactly proven out here. So, again, I don't think everything you hear all the time from people that I would strongly suggest you listen to. And if you're going to get off on a tangent, it might be a bad one, so don't just stick with what they're saying. But, I still think once you get comfortable with this type of stuff and you really search out the reasons why, these learned people say what they do, I think you're going to find cracks in even what they say. And I would love to debate these guys on this, and I'm completely convinced that my side of this story is correct. And although I started out thinking, you wanted to be symmetrical, I quickly realized that the best numbers weren't found there, and and I think this is why. I think we can argue why. All right, so enough with that. Now let's cast our attention here to what bad ideas are like, and how you just need to stem these things and sooner the better. All right, and what better person, I'm sorry to say it, but what better person to use than Two Tick Nick? So we're going to slide on over to his TradingView account because I'm going to show you how what he does just has zero legs. And the proof is in the pudding because the guy has been years, I think, without even having a profitable year. Years. And he's never going to change. He's got some bad ideas where I've pointed it out, and he's going to be watching this, I'm sure, and he's not going to change after the fact. But I'm here to tell you, when you are looking at programmatic trading, trying to build a better mousetrap, you have to have all your shit together. And it starts from the get-go. And the get-go is just having a series of very bad ideas that you've been doing forever. You've not properly, logically vetted these things because they just completely fail the sniff test to anyone that's been doing this type of stuff. And it's just because you again, I said before, it's your favorite toy, you hang on to it, it's what you've spent all your time in, and people are loath to admit that they've wasted their fucking time from the get-go. And, it takes a better person than clearly what Nick is to realize that everything he's done to this point is a dismal failure, and you got to start over from scratch. So I'm here to help you before you get too many bad habits. And of course, you already have far too many bad habits to begin with, but let's hope you haven't gone down, this far the sewer pipe with Nick. So no particular order. I think I want to I'm looking at something off screen here. Let's take a look at Two Tick Nick's Apple trades. And why I'm choosing Apple is it's one he goes after a lot. Right? So we're going to look at his for Christ's sake, his most recent Apple trades. And I'm going to tell you what is long-term, 40,000 feet look wrong with this type of stuff. So first of all, you're going to use an indicator of some sort. So I'm going to call it an indicator. You may have different terminology. What Nick uses here in this particular chart is, I guess it's 1 hour trend lines, and I guess he's got a head and shoulders. All right, I want to point out a few things here for you, but let's just take a look at all the charts, and we'll get together the problem with looking at it like this. There's multiple problems. 1 hour trend lines, and I guess a head and shoulders. And let's take a look at another one. Okay, so more trend lines. Now also note he's got this type of stuff. Now I forget what he calls this, but it's a sea of silliness. And this is 1 day trend lines. And whatever this stuff is, he'll call it waves. Okay, so it's some form of Elliott wave. That's nonsensical as well. And let's just take a look. So I should have mentioned, so this is current 2025, 2026. This one is 23 to 26. This one over here is 24. So let's go back to this 23, 26 one, and it's the daily, because we get to see a lot of data. So first of all, you've noticed, that he does trend lines in different time frames, right? So that's a problem, because remember, you're trying to build a mousetrap here. And what Nick never does, and what most people never do, because it's difficult, is he never actually vets all of this stuff that he's showing. He's just doing the same silly shit. And all he's really doing, because he's a doomer, is looking for Apple shorts. That's what he's really doing here. So if he has to drill down from a daily chart or a weekly chart to an hourly chart or a 4-hour chart, he will do that. Whatever it takes to find an Apple short is all he's looking to do here. So he's not even looking at the market and just asking it what he should do with Apple long or short. So we're looking here at this chart from 2023. So we've got 1, 2, 3 full years here. All right, was he ever long Apple? Was he ever long? Because if you knew nothing, if this was stock X, you look at this data, I don't care how you crunch it, you know the winning position here is long Apple. Now listen, that's just the last 3 years. But if you take a look at the last 15 years on Apple, the winning position was long. Folks, 92% of the time, the winning position is long on average throughout the entirety of stock land. So we just look at an index. Now, Apple is a pretty darn good proxy to an index or vice versa because it's a large stock within the NASDAQ, at one time the largest. So I'm sure I could trade Apple off of my NASDAQ index algorithm calls and do a pretty decent job. No, I wouldn't because more work would need to be done, but I'm sure I could. So you know that the large cap stuff like this needs to be traded long most of the time. Nick's first problem is he's a career doomer and he would never think of getting long stuff like this. And I say that because you look back all through 2024, what's he trying to do? He's trying to grab the short. Middle of 23, he's trying to grab the short. So that's why I say let's look at this chart, because he never once got long. So first of all, the guy is wrong out of the gate. You need to look for reasons to be long and short, knowing full well that you've got to be long this stuff far more often if you're writing a responsible algorithm than short. It's just a fact. Never does that. So his first mistake is he's out of the market with the easy money. Never thought once of being long Apple here because he's a career doomer, and most people are. They just love to see things going down. So he wastes all this time waiting for an Apple short. And you can tell that trying to be short Apple or indexes on a long-term basis, looking for your short-only opportunities, which is most of what Nick does, is the wrong way to go. And I say that definitively by pointing out his entire last 5, 6, 7-year career has been just dealt him garbage because all he's ever done is go short. He's the guy that's got it flipped upside down. So he's wrong there because he just refuses to get long because I can't be long because I missed it at the bottom. He's a bottom picker when he's going long and he can't hold it. And if he doesn't get it or he sells it, he will never get back long. So he's throwing the easy money out the window for no reason. Secondly, he's a career doomer. He wants to be short and he's looking for reasons to be short and short and more short and more short. And what does he do? If you're building a better mousetrap and you want to do trend lines, are you going to use 1-day trend lines? Are you going to use 1-hour trend lines? Which one takes precedent? When? Are you going to throw in here head and shoulders? A head and shoulders on an hour, a head and shoulders on a day? Listen, this stuff needs to be coded in, and you need to be making a load of decisions. And if you are doing what he's doing, trend lines and head and shoulders and this wave stuff, that is a pile of coding. And what timeline, which takes precedence? If you cannot pseudocode this or straight up code this at all, you have no business making your first trade. You have not thought your mousetrap out at all. Here again, this is two-tick Nick. This guy cannot give you an ounce of statistics on anything he does. He has no reason whatsoever to be trading anything based off the pitiful work that he does, which is nothing more than random reasons for going short. And we're not even talking about when is your trade going to be done, whether you win or lose, and what's the size. He doesn't even get that far, and that has to be vetted as well. So most people simply have no plan, and the plan that they do have is poorly constructed as it is just fraught with the idiosyncrasies of the idiot making it. I want to only ever be short. You know, that type of ridiculousness. And you have no reason to be short. You have no reason at all. You haven't done even 1/10 of the work. And this doesn't include, and I'll finish up this video here, this does not include all the other potential indicators that you could throw on this. Moving averages, stochastics, RSI, MACD, all of the other available indicators out there. There are hundreds of them. And when you start stacking them on top of each other, you know the available paths of your equity curve is multiplicative, and it becomes very big very quick. And most people are running around and you don't even understand what I just said. All right, so we're going to wrap this up here. Now you understand where you have to vet what you're doing. All right, not just randomly coming out and thinking, oh, this works. And because I know a lot of you have done it, you've used RSI, stochastics, moving average, and you haven't even vetted that shit out. And you don't realize the more you make your chart look like a freaking Christmas tree, all reasoning the same way, the way that you started out wanting your chart to come to the conclusion with. instead of just allowing it to give you the conclusion. And I'll talk to you in the next video.